Taking action for you. KEPR Action News.
Like any election, people need to have their voices heard, and voting's the best way to do it.
Coming up on Action News, Election Day is here. We're just hours away from learning the results of several races and measures across Washington. You'll hear from local voters on the issues that matter to them this midterm election.
Ultimately, it's the canvassing board that either certifies or does not certify.
And now that ballots have reached the deadline to be turned in, we'll tell you the unique process of how your vote is counted. Good evening, everyone. I'm Scott Stovall. We're just hours away from finding out preliminary results for this year's midterm elections. Drop boxes were busy today with voters in both Benton and Franklin County casting their votes. Action News spoke to local voters about the issues that matter most to them.
Inflation, the cost of going to the grocery store, to the gas station, it's horrendous. I mean, you've about got to take a loan out to go fill up a car.
I don't think anybody behind a desk should be choosing what a woman can and can't do. But the same goes for anybody. I think everybody should have the choice to do what they need to and what they want to with their body.
I know our climate is a big issue for me. Another one is education. I'm young. I see some issues in our education right now, and I know there are people who want to fix that, so I want to vote for them.
We also asked local voters why they decided to turn out for this year's election.
If we don't vote, it's basically letting the issues that we want changed. Our voices are not being heard.
People have died for people to have the right to vote, and everyone should be able to express their opinions how they want to, freely and without afraid of being attacked.
I got 3 kids of my own, and now you start having kids, you start looking at life a little differently, and you actually start seeing what's really important to you, and you want to vote for the people that will support your family.
Our reporter Samantha Spitz is live at one of the ballot drop-off locations in Franklin County with more news on this year's voter turnout. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Scott. Well, voters have a little less than 2 hours left to drop off their ballots. Our local auditors tell me that so far voter turnout this year is lagging compared to years past, but they say they are seeing a trend of more voters voting last minute, either day of or just hours before that 8 p.m. deadline. What voter turnout is looking like right now in Benton County, 49,000 ballots have been returned. That's about 39%. In Franklin County, more than 14,000 ballots have been returned, about 33.5%. And then in Walla Walla County, 13,800 ballots have been returned, which equates to about 37.5%. Now, of those ballots returned, a small percentage in each county, about 1 to 2%, have been challenged, usually because the voter signature does not match the one on file. Now, voters have until 8 o'clock tonight to get their ballots, and we have a list of all of those drop box locations posted up on our website, KEPRTV.com. Live in Pasco, Samantha Spitz, Action News.
All right, thanks, Sam. And leaders in Washington state say 39% of Washington ballots have been returned as of this evening. In total, more than 1.8 million ballots have been returned. That's almost 39% statewide. The state reporting 4.8 million people in Washington are registered to vote in today's election. Data shows older demographics typically exercise their voting rights at a much higher rate than younger ones. Statewide, more than 57% of voters 65 and older have returned ballots, compared to just 11% of those 18 to 24.
Currently outside our studios, 38 degrees, and as you saw Sam there outside, the wind kind of blowing a little bit out of the northwest at 18. That makes that temperature feel like it's 28 degrees. Jacket is in order if you're out and about this evening, no question about it. Lows overnight dipping into the low 20s. Some outlying areas could be dropping down into the upper teens. That brisk north wind will stick with us for a little while, but ease up overnight as the forecast is turning a little bit colder and a drier trend setting up for us. I'll have all the details on what it looks like for the rest of the week and into your weekend and your full storm tracker forecast in just a few minutes.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Well, some of the most critical races in our state are getting too close to call. Patty Murray, going for her 6th term in the U.S. Senate, spent the last days of the campaign in Issaquah in Seattle. She'll be out today canvassing in Kent. On Monday, Tiffany Smiley stumped in Allen, Tumwater, and Tacoma. Both campaigns, where recent polls show Murray's lead appears to be shrinking.
I don't listen to Republican polls. I go out and talk to voters, and I feel really good about it.
Or I have a track record of taking on D.C. and winning, and that's what Washington State wants.
The other race in the national spotlight for Washington's 8th district between incumbent Dr. Kim Schreier and Matt Larkin. Larkin was in Renton yesterday, Schreier in Issaquah today. Oregon's 3 gubernatorial candidates are making a final push to the finish line. Republican Christine Drazen visited the Clackamas County Fairgrounds in Canby yesterday, as well as Eugene and Klamath Falls. Betsy Johnson, who is running unaffiliated, stopped by Bison Coffee House in the Cully neighborhood. And Democrat Tina Kotek was at the Lloyd Center this weekend and continued canvassing neighborhoods yesterday. The candidates say they want to urge voters to really think about what issues matter most.
Reproductive freedom is on the line. Standing up for working families is on the line. If you care about climate change, that is on the ballot this year in the governor's race.
Restore balance in our state's civic life and remind the status quo and the politicians that have been in charge for the last 10 years that they will refuse to be left behind.
I think with the courage to come into the public square and say we've got to do things differently and appeal to both Republicans and Democrats, that's perhaps change the dialogue.
The candidates say they want to urge voters to really think about what issues matter the most to them when they head to the ballot box. And we're also tracking several other races tonight, including the race for Washington Secretary of State. Democrat Steve Hobbs was appointed by Governor Jay Inslee to replace Kim Wyman, who resigned. Also, the U.S. representative in the 4th District, where longtime Representative Dan Newhouse is seeking another term. He's being challenged by Democrat Doug White. And also, there will be a new prosecuting attorney in Benton County with longtime prosecutor Andy Miller retiring. Eric Eisinger and Ryan Luxon are running, and we'll bring you results from these races and much more tonight at 11 p.m. And also, as soon as results come out, we'll start putting them on our website, KEPRtv.com. That'll be shortly after 8 o'clock. Now, up to 205,000 registered voters in Benton, Franklin, and Walla Walla counties has submitted votes for this year's midterm elections, and in hours, they'll be tallied up. All ballots are handled in pairs of 2 to ensure dual control of the sacred papers. Collected from the drop box in secure look containers, they're transported to county voting centers. There, they're sorted and prepped for signature verification that compares the one on the ballot with the one on your driver's license. And there's up to 3 teams of people that can work to verify one signature to ensure valid votes are counted. From there, it's into the scanner to record the votes, and the ballots are secured for at least 60 days to keep a paper trail. A very intentional process, says Franklin County Auditor Matt Beaton.
It's a deliberate process. I think that's what to say. And the speed at which it goes, is not, we just make sure that we handle them all the same and with integrity.
The results will be reported to the state starting at 8 tonight, but it's the 3-person canvassing board that will ultimately certify the votes or not.
This election cycle marked the most legal cases brought before Election Day. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington.
Many voters encountering Department of Justice officials as they cast ballots on Election Day. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us from Capitol Hill with more on the DOJ ramping up their presence at the polls.
The Department of Justice expanding their visibility this Election Day.
While the DOJ routinely monitors some precincts to ensure safe and fair voting access, Tuesday's deployment to 64 jurisdictions marks the largest presence in years. The move comes as lawsuits over voting practices pile up in competitive states.
Over the past 2 decades, spending on legal expenses has increased from $5 million to $66 million in elections.
As of late last week, campaigns and outside groups submitted 120 lawsuits across the country, nearly double the amount of cases filed before the 2020 election.
You're seeing two kinds of lawsuits filed. Most of the lawsuits that are being filed by Democrats are to change the existing rules. Most of the lawsuits filed by Republican candidates and parties are to ensure that, in fact, the laws and rules as they exist are followed.
In Pennsylvania, for example, Republicans want strict enforcement of the dates on mail-in ballots, Democrats calling such enforcement a violation of the Civil Rights Act. In Georgia, Democrats are asking the court to extend the voting deadline because 1,000 absentee ballots were not sent out in a timely manner.
You got to recognize the politics with mail-in ballots. They're overwhelmingly Democratic. Really, both sides want an electorate that favors them. Democrats are going to push hard for the inclusion of vote by mail ballots, and Republicans are going to push against that.
Some predict these current legal cases are but a dress rehearsal of the battles to come in 2024. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
A chilly evening shaping up for us. As you can see, temperatures already in the 30s, and it's going to be quite cold out there, especially with the north breeze at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Bundle up. How's it shape up for us heading into our Wednesday? I'll have your full storm tracker forecast. That's coming up after the break.
The student shot at Ingram High School in Seattle this morning has died, and the suspect, also a student, is in custody. The school started releasing students around 12:30 as a crowd of parents waited in the parking lot to reunite with their kids. This afternoon, Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz says it's too early in the investigation to say exactly what led to the shooting and how many shots were fired. He would not confirm the suspect is a student, only that it happened inside a hallway.
We heard an altercation towards the hallway, and then everyone started to freak out. Everyone was wondering what was happening. We had to close the doors. There was an emergency saying, oh, we need to get a lockdown. And it was just, everything happened so fast. I was nervous. I was just super confused.
Police say they responded within 4 minutes of the report of the shooting. Emergency crews tried giving the victim CPR. They were able to track down the suspect an hour later, getting off a bus at 145th and Aurora. Police also found a weapon, now going through ballistics to see if they can connect it to the shooting. Well, oil prices are dropping as the world gears up for a potential recession. Brent crude futures for January fell 72 cents to $97.20 a barrel, while U.S. crude fell about $1. The drop is due to COVID outbreaks in China, one of the largest oil importers in the world, and fears of a global recession. This says the U.S. works to put a cap on Russian oil.
Russia will make whatever decisions it makes, but I think it will have an interest in continuing to sell energy. And again, this is a good mechanism for both ensuring that energy remains on the market, but the gains that Russia gets from it have a ceiling on them.
Keeping Russian oil in the marketplace is intended to keep energy prices down globally, preventing Europe and other countries from falling into a deep economic tailspin, while also keeping pressure on Russia to leave Ukraine.
Well, good evening. Our forecast tonight, quiet, calm conditions, but boy, cold temperatures as we head into the overnight hours, especially 38 in Pasco right now. Hanford checking in at 36 degrees, 37 in Walla Walla. Clear skies out there. Winds have been breezy out there. At north at 18 now in Pasco, 20 in Richland, 11 at Hanford, 9 in Walla Walla. And when winds are that high, we start factoring in wind chill factors. So these upper 30s feel more like upper 20s right now if you're heading out the door. And our wind speeds will stay breezy through the evening hours, but will begin to relax a little bit overnight and into Wednesday and moving into Thursday as well, as an area of high pressure becomes the dominant feature for us over the next couple days and probably even extending into the weekend. That creates another interesting scenario for us, and that's the potential for some inversions or some low clouds and fog trying to develop here at the basin floor. Right now, we're going to keep the sunshine in the forecast, but we'll watch it by the end of the week and into the weekend. The upper level low that produced some rain last night, some isolated showers, some cold rain, even some snow into central Washington, is now to the south of us over California and in Nevada, Utah, and into southern Idaho. Southern Oregon may get some snow tonight through the morning hours. We're watching these areas, but again, this is south of our viewing area, and it'll move off to the Idaho and into Montana and towards the Rockies over the next couple of days. Notice how clear we are here across Washington state. Dry, cold northerly airflow component moving in, and it doesn't look like it's going to change a whole lot for us. We have a high just off the coast that's going to stay in play through the end of the week, and looks like extending into the weekend and maybe even into the early part of next week before we see some systems hopefully come in and bring some more beneficial snow to the mountains like we saw over the last few days. Seattle 46 and sunshine tomorrow, 50 for Portland, a dry day across the northwest with sunshine to go around, and Spokane only at 35 degrees. Yeah, jacket weather for sure, especially at night. Lows dropping down into the 20s, 26 for Richland, 25 for Walla Walla. Some frost could be possible tomorrow morning as well, so look out for that early morning if you're heading out the door. 47 for Pasco for a high tomorrow, 45 at Hanford. And Walla Walla struggling to hit the 40-degree mark. It is going to be a chilly day, no question, and this colder trend remains for the rest of the week and into the weekend. Veterans Day will pull in a few more clouds and 40 degrees, lows at night in the 20s, upper 30s possibly next week for Walla Walla. Yikes, it's cold, no question, and dry though, and we'll watch for fog maybe developing for us as well. But for now, we'll keep mainly sunny conditions, clouds moving in on Veterans Day at 37, the weekend highs around 40, lows at night in the low to mid 20s. So get that jacket ready to go. It's going to get a little bit colder for us. That's a look at weather. Have a great night.
I'm Ryan Rogers. High school district volleyball tonight. Local teams playing to stay alive, plus the start of state soccer playoffs. That and more coming up next on KEPR Action Sports. Welcome back to KEPR Action News Sports. A busy week of sports, especially on the high school scene. In volleyball, Richland getting ready for their big showdown this Saturday in Spokane with Gonzaga Prep. That match will crown the 4A district champion, with both teams advancing to next weekend's state tournament in Yakima. Meanwhile, tonight, local teams with their seasons on the line in the 4A districts. Chiawana at home against Lewis and Clark out of Spokane. The Riverhawks must win to stay alive. And in Kennewick, the Kamiakin Braves host the Hanford Falcons, also a loser-out match. Kamiakin won both matches against Hanford in the regular season, including a 5-set victory over the Falcons 2 weeks ago. Now, the winners of those two matches tonight will meet this Saturday in a winner-to-state matchup. Meanwhile, in the 2A districts, the Prosser Mustangs on the road tonight against the Grandview Greyhounds. Othello Huskies travel to Seala to take on the Vikings. Both of those are loser-out matches, and the winners will face each other Thursday night in Ellensburg. The state soccer tournament starts this week, and one local team in action this evening. Right now, Connell taking on Cahoya in a state opening round match. We'll have those results at 11. Tomorrow in the 4A state bracket, Kamiakin at home against Rogers. That game will be at Lamson Stadium in Kennewick. It starts at 5:30. County Bent in the 1A tournament. They're on the road tomorrow against Seattle Academy. That starts at 5 o'clock. Tri-City Americans return to the home ice this evening. Friday night when they host Everett. The AMs are 7-9 on the season after a 2-4 road trip against the East Division. Tri-City is currently in 4th place in the U.S. Division. Along with this Friday night, the Americans will play 9 of their next 11 games at the Toyota Center. That'll run into mid-December, so there's plenty of opportunities to catch the AMs in action in the coming weeks. And in college football, the new playoff rankings are in. The Washington Huskies' last-second win over Oregon State did not get them into the playoff top 25. However, the Huskies are ranked 24th in the AP and 23rd in the coaches poll this week. Washington has a tough matchup this Saturday. The Dogs travel to Eugene to take on the Oregon Ducks. The Ducks are ranked 6th in the playoff poll, so it's a big chance for the Huskies to play spoiler this weekend. Saturday's game will start at 4 o'clock. Meanwhile, the Washington State Cougars, they're still unranked, but they're coming off a dominating 52-14 win over Stanford over the weekend, and one more win. They'll be bowl eligible. The Cougs are at home this Saturday against Arizona State. Kickoff at 12:30. And that's just some of what's going on this week.
Yeah, a lot going on. And our weather, man, it's feeling more like winter. I think we skipped fall.
Yeah, we kind of did. We went into really unseasonably warm weather in October and then just went right into the cold weather. And boy, it's going to stay cold too for a few days. Lows tonight dropping down into the 20s, mid-20s in some spots like Walla Walla, and we could see some areas of frost as well. Now tomorrow's temperatures only in the 40s. We'll struggle to hit 40 for places like Walla Walla, and the trend through the weekend stays cold, dry too. Lows in the 20s, highs only around 40 to the low to mid 40s for most of us heading through the weekend. And so there you have it.
Wow.
Forward, yeah.
All right. And a quick reminder, you have until 8 o'clock tonight to get your ballots into one of those drop boxes. They have to be postmarked by today to count. And also we'll have some cut-ins, election cut-ins during the evening. So be sure to tune in for those as well as our 11 o'clock show. Have a great evening, and we will see you pretty soon. Good night.